minutes. Uh, if you are, if you have no idea what we were talking about, it was simply the discussion of House of the Dragon, and with the death of Better Call Saul and the birth of House of the Dragon, do you think that show is going to be able to hold its own weight? Do you think that House of Dragon can not only capture your attention, but capture it in the same way that Game of Thrones did? I mean, I'm not saying it has to be exactly alike. I'm not saying they have to be perfect. I'm just saying, do you think it's going to keep your attention for 8 seasons, 7 seasons? Better Call Saul only did 6 seasons. Breaking Bad only did like 5 seasons. The Sopranos only did about 8 seasons. And I think 8 is kind of like the magic number for for usual shows. But uh, there there's a slight lacking to the new Game of Thrones series, and I think the casting was not really my favorite. Just not really my favorite part of the show. The main character, who I guess is the main character, who plays her character, I think is Veneria. Uh, she is now being. I mean, if you watch the episode, it's not that much of a spoiler since it's episode 1 and it's a pilot, and so um, we're talking about as main characters go. I mean, we had before you had Ned Stark, and Ned Stark was a perfect character to start with because he was going along and getting a job he didn't want and being put in a position of power he never asked for. So as he's doing his job as Hand of the King for Robert Baratheon, it was interesting, intriguing, and it was just absolutely intriguing is the perfect word for it, because you were following this guy. You were as curious as he was. And throughout the entirety of that first season, they played it off kind of like a detective show would. So, in my opinion, it was like a Sherlock Holmes put in the Lord of the Rings. Like mixing those two, and that's how that first season went, and I loved it. I saw no problem with it. Now, as for this new show, as I was saying, I wasn't a big fan of the casting. Like, I like Damon. I think Damon looks like Damon would in my head from the books, but uh, they're not really the best at getting their characters to look, 100% as the book would say. So, Tyrion, for instance, there is a very great breakdown of Tyrion and the actual Tyrion. I think it's called the real Tyrion. Excuse me. And that was done by ShiftX. I definitely recommend if you want to know anything about Game of Thrones and about Song of Ice and Fire and the if you want to read or learn about the Game of Thrones Dance of the Dragons book. There's so much to learn from with with that channel, and so Alt Shift X, I just absolutely loved what they were doing because they narrate it and they also give you some great drawings. The way that they drew their characters were really based 100% off of the actual books. So when you're watching, uh, when you watch like Euron Greyjoy come by, I really was disappointed in the way he looked. This is not what the Euron Greyjoy in here looked like, he definitely, I mean, he didn't have the eye patch, he didn't have the long, cool ass coat. um, so I highly recommend checking out Alt Shift X, and especially if you want to be caught up in the thing. If you want to be caught up in the, I'm sorry, give me one moment. Tell Casey I'm streaming on YouTube. Just wanted to let my brother know that I am streaming on YouTube, I think. So, as I was saying, if you go to Alt Shift X, which I really do, it's free promotion. I'm sure they're not going to mind. This is the channel you want to watch if you really want to know, not only Game of Thrones, but when you watch a show and the show's based really off of just kind of one book. Definitely recommend you check out other stuff because it's so good and intriguing, and he tells you about the different clans, the different houses, the different kingdoms, the different sigils, and the guy knows everything. He never lets you down with it. He reminds me a lot of Stephen Colbert. If you ever listen to Stephen Colbert talk about Lord of the Rings, he knows Tolkien like the back of his hand, and he's so good at it. So, going to Alt Shift X is a great way to catch up, or if you also want to learn about different things that the book has that the show didn't, he talks about that, and the illustrations I consider to be the best part because I have not much of an imagination, and it's actually kind of hard for me to read books in general because of that. I don't really care. So, simply because of that, I don't care. And it's my own problem. I have like an ADD thing where I get bored. And so audiobooks are definitely my thing. I love audiobooks, and when you're following a show that's like Game of Thrones, you also really kind of need a channel or station or video that is going to stay there, that helps you remember which houses are which, the topography, the like when they first show Harrenhal in the opening sequence, I think it was nice to see Harrenhal without being destroyed, and the way that we were introduced to Harrenhal in the Game of Thrones series, it was definitely cool to see that Harrenhal was not yet destroyed, so I guess we're gonna see that happen. But I was under the impression we were being given a different show already. I was told that we were going to get 2 spin-offs, and one of them was going to be about how the wall was built. So when I heard that the wall was not going to be the focus of the show, it kind of bothered me. I just didn't understand it. It would have made sense to have it go to that point. Because it's like you don't want to go too far back, and from what I remember of watching that the pilot for House of Dragon, it definitely had it definitely gave a specific year, and I remember hearing the year 101. So I believe the show's taking place in 101, and it's like, wait, so in just 101 years, you guys have managed to start from the first men to the first century. And it's like, okay, and not the first century, but the first first century, not millennium. But that's what really confused me, was that like the traditions were already there, and it's, how could you be saying things like I swear by the old gods and the new? See, when you saw that on Game of Thrones, it made sense because they've lived in this, make believe topography for, centuries. And so these are buildings that seem to be thousands of years old, and then you find out it's year 101. So does that mean they have like a before Christ kind of era, like a BCE or before Common Era kind of thing? Is there like a before, like for them it wouldn't be BCE, it would be like, I don't know, BTW, because it would be before the wall, And I really was hoping that that's what we were going to see, is that we were going to see the how the wildlings became wildlings, and how the first men and the first watch went on that. And yeah, that just kind of bothered me. Okay. And so, yeah, it was just weird. And so, they're already doing this whole, you know, old gods and new gods, and I just didn't get it. It was like, wait, well, how could you have new gods? It's only been 100 years. I was hoping they were just gonna say, "I swear by the gods," that. But again, I did not read all the books. I did not follow from day one, which would have been 1993, I think, is when George Martin started writing those books. And my issue again with the casting, the main character doesn't have a lot of natural charisma, in my opinion. I mean, I know and it's not because she's a woman or anything like that. I just mean she's not as particularly interesting as Daenerys was. Like, Daenerys was instantly interesting. Her brother was a piece of crap, but he was also interesting. He was also equally interesting, and so yeah, I'm trying to get. So if you're trying to get our attention like that, the best thing you can do is just, don't give us any bull crap. Just show us the real show, and give us something to look at. Because I thought we were also going to learn more about the Children of the Forest. I thought that this is going to have more to do with that. And again, I shouldn't say too much because God only knows what they have planned, so they could be showing that. I don't know. And again, um, Game of Thrones in general is not a show that I watch because of battle scenes or anything like that. So, sorry about that. I'm filling my bowl. So yeah, the point is that like this new kid that I'm supposed to follow. I mean, she's not as interesting as like Arya. She kind of has the presence of. If I were to compare her to anybody, I would say she kind of looks like, or reminds me of like Sansa, because she's not really that interesting, and I don't really want to get to know her that well, but maybe she'll figure out a way of getting more interesting. I don't know, but I just know she should definitely start doing that quickly because you lose fans. Fans are fickle, man. Fans are very fickle, and they'll give up on that show in a heartbeat if they don't do it right. And so, now back to the other subject, which was Better Call Saul and leaving this void behind. The final episode was definitely something I thought it was just well deserved for Jimmy to, get Jimmy back. I mean, for that moment, Saul had gotten himself, you know, a life sentence plus 80 years or something like that. And then he ends up gets it all the way down to 7, which is immediately I thought, wow, there's no way they're gonna end it this way because, Saul isn't the type of guy to go guns blazing, and he's not the type of guy that's gonna shoot his way out, or do anything crazy like Walter did. So I was not looking for that, but I was looking for some sort of, finagling that only Saul can be capable of doing. So as he gets Bob Oakley to do it, it was pretty funny that he's such a loser in the beginning of the show, and then he becomes the pretty much the only lawyer that Saul was going to trust because he knew that he could work his way through Oakley. Definitely think that he used Oakley because he knew that he can talk over him. He knew that he can do his finagling around that. He can finagle around Bob Oakley because Oakley was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And he definitely was no match when it comes to being a lawyer. He was definitely no match for Saul. But it was crazy how he gets this life sentence plus, 80 years. And, right there he talks himself down to 7 years. And that was all Saul. But knowing that all of this is going to fall on Kim, he couldn't allow that. That was the last time that Jimmy was going to ever come back. For Better Call Saul, Jimmy was definitely the opposite of Saul, and Saul was the opposite of Jimmy in almost every way. But he definitely learned to basically figure out that they are two different people and that he can't change. And the fact that he had basically given up a free ride to go 7 years instead of a life sentence, and then gives that all up for Kim to die on that hill and takes the 80 years, that was Jimmy. Saul managed to do one thing, and this is all the same guy, which is why it was so great, because Bob Odenkirk is just a great actor like that. He knows what he's doing. And the final cameos with Cranston and getting to see Walter White one more time, I thought was awesome. But getting to see Jesse, to me, was more important because I want to know where Jesse was in that kind of situation when it involves Kim and stuff. We never saw Jesse and Kim in the same room. We never saw anything like that. So it was definitely awesome to see them stand next to each other, because that was kind of something I was waiting for. But they knew how to friggin' end it, man. They knew just how to end it the right way without insulting us and without, I love how my mother is a huge Carol Burnett fan, and she said that was the first time I ever said, damn you, Carol Burnett. And so Yeah. So as for the shutdown, I thought that was hilarious. That they had this huge crash. All these different streaming devices had just crashed because all these people were trying to view it at once. So, I mean, come on, guys. You know damn well this is going to be one of the biggest things you guys have ever done. So, why? Why would you even? Why? Why? It's just mind-boggling to me. You know, you think you'd take care of that channel and make sure that you're prepared for such a huge debut. I mean, HBO Max and AMC Plus were both just ill prepared. And I think it's because there's that mentality that they think people are still watching it on HBO, and no one is. No one really is. I mean, you have a small group of a few million people, but I mean, the majority of us are watching it on AMC Plus or our cousin's AMC Plus. You know, that's another thing is they can say that they're gonna, you know, uh, they're gonna cut people down from using other people's stuff, and they're really gonna start taking down people that give out their passwords, which is just stupid because that's what should have been the. I mean, people are gonna do that no matter what. So what is the difference here? I just did not understand that part. You know that's gonna happen. You know people are always gonna find a way to go about it and go around it. No one ever needs to buy something. There's always a way around it. So the fact that it all ended the way it did, I couldn't have asked for more. Really, I couldn't. I didn't want Jimmy to die. I didn't. And what's great is that it was the closest thing to a happy ending because of the sheer fact that Saul is going to have to be Saul for the rest of his life, which he hated. You know, and the last thing he wanted to be at the end of the show was just Jimmy McGill, and he will never get that again. He lost that. He lost that privilege, and he lost the privilege of keeping his family name after all that happened, and from the disgrace of his brother to the fact that he did blame himself for his brother's suicide. Definitely an interesting take on that. Definitely an interesting thing to see that he did have remorse for that. Um, for me, I would love a damn show that's just about Mike and Gustavo, but you'd have to start recasting, you know? Um, the guy that plays Mike Ehrmantraut, Jonathan Banks, I mean, I think he's 70 something. He's not going to want to do that show. I mean, I can only imagine how much pain he was in, you know, at that age to do what he was doing on that show. I can only imagine how much pain he was, how much Ben Gay that guy was going through every week. And I don't mean that in an insult. I mean that in a human term, because in a way, because that's just how humans are. You know, we break down. So, speaking of breaking down, we're gonna go ahead and end this. Again, if you guys have anything to say, please leave it in the comments. I'm gonna keep doing this. I really don't care who watches, who doesn't. Um, it's just all about content for me. I'm just gonna keep pulling this shit out, and really, I just uh, am just looking for my niche and still finding myself on this YouTube channel. It's like being on the radio. You know, you don't know if anyone's listening to it. You don't know if anyone cares, and most likely nobody does. But if you can put out quality content that is sensible and just do the best you can, then you really can't ask yourself for more than that. Again, I love what I do. I love the music I make. I love the fucking. Uh, I love the job I have, and I really want this to be something bigger. And so next time, maybe I can get somebody else to be on here, so you guys. Uh, I'm sure you're tired of seeing my face, so I would like to get a second person on here, but we'll see how that goes. All right. Thanks a lot, you guys. As always, I will catch you on the other side. This has been Useless Agent, STS with Guy, your host. And yeah, we'll be doing more of these, and we try to keep them Monday to Friday, but the weekends usually will be cleared out. As for doing this 5 days a week, of course that's going to be a maybe. And if there's other more intriguing topics to jump into or new ways of reaching you guys, we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it only if it's something we want to be a part of, you know? No one's going to be fake on my freaking channel, all right? So what you see is what you get.